Makes no difference. Rattle up, it's lazy go. All boys and girls, they sing the song at the start. And long laugh during the come through the next part of the
I guess that's a good time to talk about my childhood. Because hey Nathaniel, and welcome back, Nugget. Thank you guys for hanging out. I would have been on time, but I muted the video, right? That song that I was just gonna play, or that I just played. And I was running around going, why can't I hear anything? And because the other video is gonna play at the start of it, the intro's got no sound. And I'm like, I've stuffed up somewhere, so that's why I'm late. I try to be exactly on time, but it's like I'm on Fiji time. No matter how on time, how prepared you want to get there, you're always late. So yeah, so there was the reason I'm saying like my childhood, right? I was about 21 when I think I might have been about, yeah, it would have been, excuse me. I was 21 when I saw Raw Meat for the Balcony, which is a New Zealand industrial metal band when industrial metal was huge back in the 90s, right? And that the music they put out was really good. Like they opened for friggin' Sepultura, and I was there. And they were the opening band, like support, right? And then the New Zealand band, and then it was at Auckland Town Hall. It was kind of like downstairs into what a normal would be a parking thing space, but what wasn't. It was like a big, huge town hall, and you walk down the stairs, and it was open space, had the stage, and then you had the balconies, right? So pretty cool name, like Raw Meat for the Balconies. It's from Roman times, right? And there was album with that, cover from that thing. And when I put up like Raw Meat for the Balcony, it says YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's spam. Try changing it a bit. So I had to go in and go, right, NZ banned Raw Meat for the Raw Meat for the Balcony. And because the other one I put in there was like raw meat, so the spelling was bad. So I like out of the blue this week, right? It must have been Sunday, this past Sunday or Saturday. I was just thought I'd jump on the New Zealand Metals page. There's a page, a group page on Facebook called New Zealand Metal. And so I went over there and I went, hey, just out of the blue, my brain just went, Raw Meat, man. There was like a band called Raw Meat. I went to saw them. It was at that time. Imagine out of all the bands I've seen and all the music that I have listened to over the years and owned, right? Thousands and thousands, right? Not so many bands, but like enough bands to know that there was a lot. And so I asked on there, I said, hey guys, does anybody remember Raw? I mean, I don't know the name of the full name of the band, if that was exact spelling of the band, but do you guys remember Raw Meat? And and what I remember was like they opened for Sepultura, and that's how I got to see them. And Sacred Reich, right? Sacred Reich was the other band that supported Sepultura on their world tour. So there was Sacred Reich and then Sepultura. Sepultura were the headliners. Them, of course, being from Brazilians. Yeah, I think they were Brazilian. And then also, Sacred Reich being from America. Reich, what have you. And so it was interesting to kind of then I put it in there like Raw Meat and came up, for the balcony. I'm like, I don't remember for the balcony. Who the hell are that? What is that? And so when I got on there, they said, this is who they are. This is how, they are called that. And I said, I was just checking that out. Didn't even believe that would be the name. So I got to listen to both albums. There was a demo album, was almost like a full album, and then there was like a studio album. And it's just like really cool to see something like that, because I thought it was like, that's what I appreciate being alive with this generation, right? That you can ask somebody a question and that you'll get an answer within like half an hour, whatever. Especially if it's to do with things that you're a part of, right? Like music or comics or, books. Like if you ask somebody about, if you go on the page for Robert E. Howard and then you go, I remember having this cover for this, comic book or this book. And then next thing you know, you got all these people going, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. And then you find out more and more about it. And so it was quite interesting to find out about this band and who it was and what was the situation with them. And so I'm just trying to find the little page I put up. Yeah, so this is it here, right? Let me pop out of there so I can give you guys some visuals about these guys. Because I think I'm not rediscovering music stuff that's, of film or comics or writers, creative, art pieces. It's kind of interesting, like it's not, I mean, not interesting like facetious way, but I mean it's interesting to find like that you have access to it so quickly now that I can just get on there and on YouTube and listen to an entire band. I can see this video from the 90s by these guys, right, that we just showed before, and just chuck together and whatever the budget was for them. And we'll look at their with their record in a minute that they put out, because like the amount of work they put into that is just amazing. And I think that I just cannot volume there. I was trying to find the I think I need to turn off this friggin' autoplay on there, excuse me. Right, so there we go. Turn that stupid autoplay off and back to Facebook. So so this is the group here, like this is New Zealand Metal group page. If I can get to it. There we go. And so you get all the, this is, I'm just looking at my name on there, so you can see the pictures that I put up and the videos and whatever. The hat I've got that I wore to the New Zealand thrash metal band. I think that was the last concert I went to, was like last year. It was in November, October, and now I've forgotten their name. Gosh, terrible this early morning. I haven't slept since yesterday. That's why I'm actually up this time. I'm actually usually in bed now, going to sleep for the next 5 hours and then waking up to do whatever I need to do. But because it's a beautiful day, it's sunny outside. Like this is the sun coming in here, right? This is how bright it is, and there's just two lights over here in front of me, keep my face a bit more lighter. And good for the camera, because the webcam needs a lot of light, so it doesn't get pixelated when I go to re-edit, or it goes out, like in 750 or 1050p, whatever. Now, about this, I know that everybody around the world has that, wherever you live, you have your own local community of music, and like in here we'll have Northern metal or whatever. There aren't that many metal bands in Northern, but it'll be like these Northern music bands, right? So it was great to find something like this out. Like, as I can say, why this is why I, like I said before, I really enjoy being alive right now, and there's been many times that has caused me to not, I've caused myself to be unalive, but through various circumstances, like being murdered almost, attempted, and that's something we're going to talk about today, and drownings, falling off a cliff, but actually somehow getting clarity to find a way down the cliff after having walked, rock faced up it, or getting pulled out of a rip, stuff like that, right? Or getting head over heels and smashing my head a couple of times on concrete. So so I tend to miss words. I tend to get single-minded, or when I'm like I forget exact things. So like now I'm slow. Sometimes when I see things like this, my memory comes back. Like I go, oh, raw meat. Wait. Oh yeah. I remember. Oh, it was kind of like no. It was like Sepultura. I remember seeing Sepultura in the 90s. Oh, there was a New Zealand band that opened. Oh, and I went with my friends. And so the memory comes back, and you're like, yeah, I remember going with Edmund, who I think it was Edmund, or was it Adonis? I can't remember. It was because two of my Hong Kong friends, right? This is about 94, I think it would have been, that we went, and I was about 21 years old. It just celebrated, and my one of my best friends that I used to live with in Auckland, like from about 88 till about 92, 93, as I worked there, was Igor Samidi. He is from Tokelau, right? Pacific Islander from Tokelau, right? Very small island in the South Pacific. And he used to be into Slayer, and I did not like Slayer. I did not like the satanic paraphernalia, the covers and stuff, but I was into everything else of thrash metal, right? So anything like there was like sort of, I came from a like religious background, so anything that kind of had like satanic symbolism, you know, whether they believed in it or not, didn't matter. It's just that I just didn't want that amongst my collection. However, I had everything else like Iron Maiden and Megadeth, because I was very very into lyrics, and because I was singing at that time as well. So what I'd be doing was like growl, singing metal at the top of my lungs, and playing in a punk band, and we're just formed, and then next thing you know, my lead guitarist becomes a Christian. Next thing you know, we go down that line, and now we're playing friggin' church music, right? So it was, so coming back to metal, after around about, I guess, I think it must have been like about 90, yeah, so about 93 to 96 came back to metal, and then after that it went away again for about 6-7 years, and then came back to heavy metal again, and about 2003. So I've been in a hard out ever since. So it's been an on and off game with me with music and stuff, and especially heavy metal. So and this is the other thing, like, I mean, I came to like loving Slayer probably around about maybe about 10 years ago, because lyrics were just so thing. But like back to punk days, right? So my friend decided to buy a lead guitar and became really good at it. And I said, well, why don't I play bass? Because I always like what I grew up watching Cliff Burton. I had a video, Clip 'em All, and at that time, so like if you look on, like, this is a great thing about this, right? This is why I keep saying about like how cool it is to be alive now with YouTube and stuff, and you can basically look up anything and you'll find some video somewhere. And I remember way back in 87, 88, I can't remember exactly when Clifford Mall came out, but I bought the right. You had to buy the freaking VHS. You could not let's go on YouTube and get it. And so I you know, when did this? I've got this. I'm going to play this little cliff, cliff, right? And so hopefully Metallica doesn't get out of their way and start, hitting me, slamming me for copyright. But I remember watching this way back then, about 87 or something, like 88. I don't know when it came out. But every week, if not every 2-3 times a week, I'd buy a new cassette. I'd get paid once a week, and then I'd go and buy it wherever I was at the time, because I used to be doing a hospitality course, and I was doing a data processing course, and in another township, about 30-40 minutes travel to go do my course on the bus. And so after the course, I'd go to the music shop, put in the headphones, and just go, okay, take this up and get me that. And then I remember seeing this, and then ordered it, right? And ordering the Clifford Mall VHS, and watching this over and over again, and then deciding that let me silence that so I can get this thing off there. There we go. Start it again. Go away. Hit that blue thing. It comes on all the time. So, I'm watching it. I'm getting into it. This is my jam, and I like, I got into Metallica after I was into Megadeth, right? But of course, they didn't have Megadeth VHS, so I'm having Clifford Mall VHS, right? And so I'm watching that. I think it would be later that would be, I think they played some, like, there was like the decadence of the West, or the fall of the West, or something like. And they had this documentary about metal and being like the ruination of Western society, except it's now rap. To be honest, I think rap is a ruination of, the modern rap, not the classic hip hop. Or would you call it hip hop? I think rap was better. I think hip hop's what now is. It's kind of weird. You can't. It's just like metal, right? You gotta go. Is it thrash, or is it speed, or is it black metal? I think like hip hop is like the black metal of rap music. There you go. The decline of Western civilization. Excellent. Yeah. So that had like I think that had peace cells on it, and so that's what I was thinking, like, there's two songs that made me really look at society in a different way, right? Which was Institutionalized and Peace Sells. Who's buying, right? And we'll have a look at that later on as well, just lyric wise. Now, talking, so my friend goes to, we're like, the three of us were working together. So there was Lance, there was, oh gosh, now I've forgotten, Rimu, right? Yeah, it's like number 6 in Maori, but he used to be from, is it Cook Islander? Rarotongan. Yeah, Rimu used to be from Rarotonga. So that's what I was saying, Tahiroa Tofa Takoma. Yeah, Rimu. Right. So there was Rimu, and there was me, and then there was Lance. So Indian, Rarotongan, European, Kiwi, and Igel, who was, into the more hardcore stuff, like Slayer, right? And us just being into all the other stuff, like AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Motorhead, what have you, right? Just not going Slayer and into like Venom and all that. And so I said to Lance, okay, so you're going to play lead guitar and guitar, so I'll do bass, and Remy goes, I'll do drums, mate. I'll do drums. So we save up, basically I saved up $350, I think it was, to buy a bass amp and then buy a bass, like the cheapest, like entry level bass you can get. That's why, like the last year or the 2 years ago when I bought, maybe a year and a half ago or something, like years is going really fast. I think it was end of 22, right? So yeah, end of 22. So I've always wanted to buy a Jackson. I always wanted to have a Jackson bass. So I actually ended up doing a big job for another convention as a co-manager and paid off a bass. And so after 30 years later, I was after the bass I always wanted, right? And so I'm messing around with that every night. But so the problem was Remu's kit was 500, right? And which meant that his was the most, costliest thing. So we actually chipped in $100 in each. Said, hey, Remu, you basically, save up the 350 and we'll give you $100 each. And like, here's the thing, we're working at $6.50 an hour at that point, right? We're like 20-year-old kids. And yeah, so this would be about 91 or something, 90, 91, 92. And we're like 20-year-old kids, right? Not even 20 yet. 19, 20. And so we're working in a factory, biscuit factory. If you ever seen like trays of biscuits, chuck it in the oven. That's what we're doing. And Remy would be either, getting, like, the machine would go around, drop the little freaking cookies, and then he'll pick them up, put them on a tray, and then we'd wheel it into the big, huge, giant friggin' walk-in ovens, right? And then Lance was more up on us, so he was like, higher up. He was a mixer, so he would be the one who'd do the recipe and all that. And so there was about another 4 other people working, right? And then I'd either be a packer or I'd be a mixer or whatever, because it just to be able to do whatever jobs you could. So $6.50, was like, I guess a tape would be like about $15 or something back then. So you actually work 2.5 hours to get a not VHS, a tape cassette, right, of your favorite music, or band, cassette tape. So which basically meant I was getting $150 a week, right, or 190 depending, around about that. And this is like the 91, right, 90s. And so in American terms, right, that's around about $6. That's like about, about $3 an hour, around maybe $4 an hour, right? Yeah, about $4 an hour, 350, right? Yeah, 350 or $4 an hour, right? So that's what, and we're working 40 hours a week. Start at 9, finish at 5, or 8:30, or finish at 4:30, whatever. And so yeah, so being young and broke and in a band is tough. I've seen bands break up because of broken strings and need to wait till payday to fix it. Yeah, I mean, the amount of money I wasted, like, on music and comics, which I'm not going to say it was wasted, but the fact that I lost them all, right? That's where I feel the waste is from. And I think for us, like, I mean, like, we go to work, we come home, we go to Remu's place because I'm at home practicing. I've got a teacher from another band who was in New Zealand, called Lewis Unit, right? I couldn't afford to pay him, right, $20 to teach me out, because you drive out. So $20 out of my $6.50 a week, an hour rate, and then going to making sure I have money to go get drunk, hang out with all weekend with the friends, and then not only that, then to go into town and spend $20 or $30, whatever, on comics and another new album or a new tape cassette, right? release. And really, the first thing I ever did was pay my board, right? Pay my board, and that was it. Get that out of the way. That was $60 a week. Get that done. Got my room paid for. It would include the power and stuff and food or whatever, because I was living with my aunt. Or my uncles, like, just because they were both in Auckland. That's the reason I actually moved away from home, 2.5 hours away to the city. And so, here we are now, out of the blue, a band, learning together and thing. And so when my was it when Lance started getting really good, but then, like, I mean, Joe Satriani good, like Midnight good, right? Like being able to tap good. And he was so good so quickly in 6 months. And I'm still trying to, work out where I'm playing the rhythm and stuff. And so, and I was like the one who was like, my brain was elsewhere, like in music, like read comics and stuff and movies. Yet the other two were like just hardcore into their music. So it took me a while to, really get into it, because I didn't have somebody to teach me. And those two guys lived closer together and this almost on the same street, if I remember right. And I'm like about 15 minutes, 20 minutes walk away from them. And so, if I go there, I got to carry my bass to them, and then got to bring the bass home. And I'm like, had to be on Saturday, and then would go skating. And so it was kind of like, I mean, I wish we had never met some of the people we met, like the older people, the adults that we hung out with, the religious people that we hung out with, because we could have gotten somewhere as a band, right? We could have actually had something with us. But the other thing side of that was that I was actually in a relationship as well, right? And so Rimu was in a relationship. Lance was in a long-term relationship, on and off again. And then I was in I think I was in a 2-year relationship, or 1.5 years, with a high school girl, because I was only about freaking 18, 19, right? And she was only about 17. And so it was like a secret relationship we had. And so I think she was only about a year younger than me or something. Yeah. Yichin. So she was from Taiwan. And so, yeah, so I mean, I kind of look back on my life and go, well, I experienced so much stuff, and we went so much stuff, but we kind of like got distracted by a lot of things. I mean, if we had stuck to what we were planning to do, which was to be a band, to be really, because we'd spent money. Like, I mean, seriously, I spent 2 weeks worth of wages on this, which meant I saved like months to make sure that I was grounded, which meant that like I had to give up stuff, right? Other stuff that I was regularly doing. And so, you went to work, you came home, and the other thing of that, I was smoking at the time. I had a cigarette as well. So, drinking, smoking, buying, heavily into music, and comics, of course, as I mentioned. And so you kind of like, and then of course you get spending time with your missus or your girlfriend, and then trying to, make sure that everything is working out. But then you're like, because you're young, you have that energy. And I was just thinking yesterday, like, I mean, because I've had like, a lot of accidents and stuff, and I walk with a cane because, spine and neck injury. And so, and I can't run around. I can't climb the hills I used to climb, or the rock faces I used to do. I can't go swimming because, my back seizes up. And so I could like basically end up drowning, because that's it. If it seizes up, I'm like, it's not going to move. I actually ended up one time in Fiji when it was my, I think it was my wedding, right? And this is like, it must be around about 2001, and my back just seized. And this is actually a weird time, because like, it wasn't until later that we realized that my back was just going. It must have taken about 2 years later. No, it was like about, yeah, no, it was 5 years later because that's when the car accident happened. But my back was on the way out because I'd already a couple of times I had like what's it called, like slip discs over and over, and so. But then the car accident was the final one. But so like my brother-in-law had to come and drag me out of the friggin' sea and onto the bank because I couldn't move my legs. It was just like he's like, okay, you just go sit there and just sit still and like slide down until it gets right again, you know. And so he was like pushing it around a bit, getting it out. But I think I kind of I'm so glad I got to experience so much. Right. I think despite all that, I got I got to rollerblade, I got to skate, I got to hang out with friends, I got to hang out with so many different people from different backgrounds, cultures. Like I was saying, Remu was from Rarotonga, Aigo was from Tokelau. You know, was it like the lady that the girl that I worked with right next to me was Maori, right? They're all our age. We're on the same age, right? At that time, now late teens, early 20s, and and of course we had lunch, right? And then there was some, and there at our workplace we took Cook Islanders as well. There was a young, a little person, right? That's the first time I actually saw a little person. He was from Cook Islands, big stocky dude, but like only about like 4 foot or something. Yeah, about 4 foot. And so he was kind of like up to here on me, as or even lower than me, and I'm not that tall, but he was pretty short, right? And I think one thing that like I find really interesting is what's happened like this week, right? This weekend, I should say, like one day yesterday. Was it yesterday? Was it today? Yeah, was it yesterday? Can't remember if it was Tuesday, Sunday. No, it was Sunday, right? And so one thing I want to go to just as we, I'll do a bit of music and then we'll go over to look at some videos I've clipped, put together for the discussion on that. So let's get some Cliff going.
Everyone, hi Cliff, how you doing?
I am muted. Now I'm not. So yeah, I just bit of a I just thought like the energy, like that was us, like being in a band like that. It was like I was a singer as well, so I'm like bass and singing in the band, and I think because it was something I wanted to do for a long time, so it was like playing. I don't know, to actually play in a band or something, but to sing, because the other two just went into it, and I was like, okay, I'll do the singing, and so on. And we actually recorded a demo, right? And like we started recording while whatever we were playing, and then the guy heard it and said, "Oh man, the guy sound punk." And I'm like, "Do we? Okay." And so one of the things I was doing at that time, which I find very friggin' weird, and I didn't think about it, and this is like 30 years later, right? Is that way back when Rimu or his sister had like a little synth, like about about a meter wide or something, like keyboard, electric keyboard. And so what I'd be doing is when Rimu and Lance would be playing, I would be there going pressing the keys like dun, 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 whatever notes did follow through. And now it was just like the reason I remember this is because like I said, I forget a lot of things because of the head injuries. So on Saturday, I think it was Sunday, somebody had uploaded a song, a video, and there was this young girl, I'm talking about 20s, right? And she was like, ding, and they're like, and I'm like, shit, we were doing that 20 years ago. That's what we were doing as a band. We were doing kind of whatever they call it now, symphonic metal, right? But we're like more punk, and and with that dragging out the key with the electric sound, and not like that thing. I'm like pressing it so like the note carries through as we go into the next one. And I thought that was kind of like interesting to like because I know the symphonic metal is like it's probably been around for a while, but hasn't been that big in the 90s. Wasn't that big in the 90s. I was more into like ministry and stuff, so I was thinking like, how do we drag this sound out? How do we grind it more? How to fill in the spaces to make it sound a bit more interesting? Because I'm walking home past the cannery, which has got like these big, huge, where my uncle works, is like one of the managers now, and he's in these cans, like you got like what it's called, can of beans kind of cans, and so they have this thing that just comes in and shapes it, right? And like I'm like going past, going crash, and I'm listening to it all the time. So I'm thinking, that sounds like an instrumental, that'll really fit. So I'm looking for sounds to make it work. But now 30 years later, it's like, oh, symphonic metal is a huge thing, industrial metal has been, huge and stuff. And I think that's probably why I remember like maybe brain clicked into why I thought that this band here, as I was mentioned earlier, have I lost them again? There we go. This right, raw meat for the balcony. So the person who's uploaded is Paul Harmon. So I think Paul Harmon was in one of the bands. So this is the unreleased debut album. So wow, so they didn't actually release it. So they had this demo, right? But then I didn't realize they hadn't released this. But like this is the entire album, right? So yeah, Paul was the drums and vocals. His brother Pat was the guitar and bass. And then also there was another guy, Matt Carson. And then there was the samples and beats with Chris Chetland. So you've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 songs, bit of an outro, and 10, 11 songs. And so, he put this up, when was this, like 4 years ago? But they never, it was unreleased, but like this was supposed to be their debut album way back when, 94. Yeah, look at that. So I'm going to put this, the link in the chat if you guys want to, check it out later. Then if you're watching the replay, do please check them out, because I think this is, this is New Zealand music. Like this is what, 30 years ago was what's, I think I'm subscribed on the other one, actually on a different login there. That's probably why I'm not sub to him. But yeah, I mean, the Harmon brothers, right? So with the industrial sound, like I'm saying, like I used to be into ministry, huge, not so much now. They've kind of gone a bit more political. than just being, middle ground music with their lyrics and stuff. But all right, so this is let's go have a look at I think what was it like. It's a Hardcore Coffee Man.
You were right. I'm diseased, and it might be contagious somehow. Help me. Help me. Help me.
Neglected and abused, people can be so cruel. Products of chaos creation, people who make their own rules.
So you can see that here the influences from like Metallica, Sepultura, probably Testament. I think personally, I believe that Testament should have been in the big four rather than Anthrax, even though I used to enjoy Anthrax at the time. I don't think Anthrax was a technically minded songwriters and musicians compared to Testament. Testament are friggin' brilliant. If you've ever heard Testament, before I'll play was it like Hardcore Coffee Man in a minute, but like Testament were like the thinking, kind of like the thinking metal thrash band, where I mean, like it's you'll see what I mean when I put it on. But like, let's have a listen to a bit of Hardcore Coffee Man, and then we'll pop over to Testament.
Someone asked me what's good for y'all, shoot them in the head side, drink coffee, all I go, I just don't care for the truth, this motherfucking life. Hardcore coffee man. I'm a hardcore coffee man, that's what I am. Feeling fine after getting my eyes, just sit on my ass, you can't tell time, even alone, you still look cool, that's what coffee does, fuck. Hardcore coffee man. I'm a hardcore coffee man, that's what I am. Oh yeah, that's me, it's easy up there on Posse Road. I know you wish you were me. I look so cool, I look so hardcore. I'm the hardcore coffee man and I'm never gonna die. Dark black is better than crack, caffeine rolls okay. Hardcore coffee man. I'm a hardcore coffee man, that's what I am.
it's one of the things. Like, I mean, the fact that yeah, Plunge Meal, Hard Coffee, and Midnight Hello Me. Yeah, it's got that sound, right? And I think it does. It's got that fun. It's got that Kiwi fun thing to it, vibe to it. No, I missed. Yeah, exactly, man. Like, seriously, like I don't even understand why it was like Anthrax was chosen to be there. Like, I can understand, Slayer needed to be there. Right? There's no reason why you would not have Slayer there. And the other thing is that that's probably when I actually got into Slayer. It was like when I heard them with the Big Four, because like I said earlier, it was ages before I got into Slayer. Now, so this is I used to own this and the Legacy, and I think there was a New World Order that I used to owned. I don't think it was the Legacy I owned, but I remember having this one on cassette, and also having this is Practice What You Preach, and having what was it? The Legacy, right? And so seriously, they put out so much music, like Testament, and so good. So that's that. Now, one of the ones I think was Legacy that they had, and where what was it on New World Order? There was a bit on New World Order. I think it was that was like really, really iconic. What was it called? I don't think it was New World Order. I think it was the Legacy. Yeah, I think it could have been. Must have been the Legacy. Where are you? Yeah. Stop there. Huh. There it is. Legacy. Okay. What really all right, dude. You have a good one too. So yeah, I think the legacy, right, of Souls of Black is probably what really made them stand out to me as a band. Right, Practice What You Preach, great. That album's great, but and the one before that, I think was like what was that one before that? Where are we? Let's get back to your home page. All right, so you had all these albums, right? So I'm around about 89, 88, 90, 91, 92. So releases are coming out. So it's about around here. I think around about here is where I am. Yeah. So these three albums is where I I'm with Testament Hideout. So, and that one like transcends everything. So this was really coming up, and with Practice What You Preach was really good, really freshy, and then you get to Souls of Black, and it's like they've arrived, like untouchable, and they should have been in the freaking Big Four. And when you look at, and I used to be an Anthrax fan, I still probably am, but I haven't listened to, I don't listen to them that much. But I think even then I would have thought, like, why is Anthrax in the Big Four, right? Because when you look at this, look at how much albums they've put out, right? They've almost probably as many as Megadeth. It's like with like Metallica, they're the biggest band in the world because they play the same shit over and over again, the same 3 albums, right? Give or take 4 albums, right? You got like Kill 'Em All, which is probably mostly Dave Mustaine's from Megadeth's album anyway, because he wrote most of the songs on it. And then you've got Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, and Black. So Black was the downfall of them all, right? That was it. But the first 4 albums, right? Great. Of course, Injustice, I think that was without, if I remember right, that was without Cliff. And so, basically they only have 4 albums that are actually worth anything, because like the 5th album, the Black album, right, with Into Sandman and all that, was basically radio friendly, with Bob Rock, from, was it Guns N' Roses or was it from Motley Crue producing that? So the sound was all gone. They muted, they put a friggin', if I remember watching the video, right, they muted, they put a friggin' foam mattress in front of Jason Newsted's bass, in front of his bass in the recording studio, so that it would be so you could hardly hear it. And I didn't even know that that's what they had done to Jason's bass, right? All that time, I did not even know that the bass was so low on that album, because I always had the friggin' bass on my headphones and on my stereo 210, right? Because I'm a bass player, or bass fan. And so I didn't know until like probably about 4 years ago that's what had happened, because people were like, oh, look on YouTube, it's like, oh, this is with the bass added. I was like, what do you mean bass added? Because I've always had it on 12 or 10 or 12, whatever, 10 or 20, because sometimes they go up to 20, especially if you have like the little mini detachable speaker type stereos, right, without the records on them. I just realized I'm aging myself, but I always said I'm, this is like 30 years ago. But and so when you look at Testament, you look at Megadeth, their album production rate and quality rate is so much better than Metallica any day, right? And even freaking Slayer, way better, way bigger. But the fact is, if Metallica did not do the Black album, it did not have Bob Rock on it, did not kind of throw out their speed and their thrash and go to kind of radio friendly version of what was thrash and thrash and speed, they would not be where they are right now. And it's kind of like, then goes back to like, well, do you want to go ahead and reach a bigger audience, or do you want to still play to the smaller crowds, right, whatever stadium, or do you want to go to like 1 million people in Russia kind of thing, right? So you cannot, like, on one hand go, oh, I wish you'd just do be the, and then on the other hand go, well, I would love for more people to get to know you, dude. Because basically, at the end of the day, fandom is about enlarging the fandom, because you want more people to hear that music, more people to hear, what you're into. Like, hey, I'm into this. And I remember, like, here's the thing, right? All my friends, apart from Igor was the only one who's already metal, weren't into metal until I met them, right? So Lance, who became, metalhead before me, because he was into hip hop. He was into LL Cool J. He was into Ice-T and that stuff, because he's in the city. And so, and here's me coming in with, like, I'm into Metallica, I'm into Megadeth, I'm into friggin', Anthrax, I'm into Motorhead, I'm into Judas Priest, I'm into friggin' White Lion, I'm into, White Snake, I'm into whatever I could metal, I was into it. I'm into Jane's Addiction, right? And gosh, some of the stuff I just don't remember, because I just had, boxes full of music, cassettes, and so, or albums, right? But I didn't really often buy albums, because it meant, like, if I bought an album, it had to be really, really would love to have it, like, because I otherwise, where the hell I got to tape it onto a cassette, because I can't take the album around with me, so which is what we do back then. You, like, record it onto a cassette, put it into your Walkman, and you go skate, right? That kind of reminds me, there's a song by Suicidals, right? It's called Go Skate. So, I think, let me find, before we move on to the next one, let me just play a bit of Suicidals. Because one thing that's really cool is, like, seeing suicidal tendencies, like, still around, right? Because now the bass player's son is playing for them, and it's just cool to, to have, to be able to watch them. Like, I watched, like, a couple concerts of them, but, like, after a while, if you watch, if you're not at the concert, it's not the same thing. But it's great to be able to have YouTube and be able to see an entire concert and watch all the people just go hard out, right? And you're not alone. Oh, this is the thing that used to happen to us when we were listening to Suicidal Tendencies, right? Like, people think, like, oh, you're trying to, this, right? So you write in Suicidal Tendencies Go Skate, and it comes up, you're not alone, because the algorithm, right, picks up, oh, maybe you're suicidal. But, so can I, like, show anyway? Because, and they, by the way, guys, like, like, this is important. This is something that, like, actually, we talk about on this channel. I mean, I talk about on our channels, right? So, at the moment, I'm using a VPN, so I'm in Australia. So wherever you are, right? I'm kind of like, as a male, right? Male to male, right? If you're going through things, go find a mate. Go find a mate, and just go and grab a beer and have a chat. There's one thing that's very important that is very not talked about enough, is about male suicide, right? And the thing is that we males are supposed to be hard. We're supposed to not show our emotions, because, that's just the way we are. And we like to keep it bottled up, and then, it comes out, and usually comes out in self-harm. And that's how it starts, right? And sort of builds up and builds up. So, as someone who's actually been through that a couple of times, thankfully, I've survived it all. I just want to say, right, you need to reach out, because even when you feel like you can't, you have forced yourself to do that. It's like anything, right? You got to practice at it. So you got to practice to reach out. Make up your mind that if you ever get to a situation like that, that you will reach out, but not wait till it gets too bad. Get in there early, because I think I've had three people from my village, including one of my cousins, right? In the last 6 months or so. Actually, now it's about 8 months, right? And they're all males, all in their 40s, right? So around 40s, right? Or even 30s, in their 30s to 40s. So in that age group, they're kind of like you, kind of just coming out of your, kind of your young youth years, right? Kind of your young adult into being full-fledged adult. And most of them had children, which is what's even worse. So this is not where you want to get to. So wherever you are, right? Don't let it get too bad before you decide to, do something about it. It's better to go hang out with your mates, get a beer, sit down, chill out, go fishing, talk it out. Because I know, none of your mates would not want to have, would not want you gone out of their lives. Because I know nobody would want, none of my mates would, because I know what my mates are like, right? Even if we're like, hard and, whatever you want to say, tough out to each other, what we call in New Zealand staunch, right? That deep down, we still care for each other. And I think if you don't have anybody, like, find someone who cares like that about you, right? And I think it's, if you keep it boiled up, it's not going to help you. It's not going to help anybody, because guess what? People are still going to, be miserable without you, right? And if you think they're going to be miserable with you, they're still going to be miserable without you, because that's human nature. But at least you'll be here to be miserable with them together, right? And you get to share the good and the bad. And I'm, like I keep saying, why I just love the fact I'm living in this lifetime. I'm in this day and age because of all these things that I can just look up Testament, right? Within like about 3 minutes, I could find a song that I used to enjoy listening to 30 years ago. Same thing with, same thing with movies, right? I was showing my friend, let me get out of this. I was showing my friend just on Friday night, right? That what was it? That we just come back from a gallery exhibition, and I said to him, like, do you yeah, we're talking about, like, we're talking about Romeo and Juliet, right? They had the Broadway show, how she's now black, and with Tom Holland and over in England or something. And I said nobody would have a problem with she was hot, right? If the chick was hot, right? Because if she was hot, nobody would really care, because it's just adaptation. Nobody really like, but she wasn't hot, right? I said I wouldn't care if she was really hot, right? If that was friggin' what's it called, Rihanna being Juliet, ain't nobody gonna care, right? But they didn't, they had to get someone who wasn't really that great looking. Sadly, I'm not that great looking either, so I can say that about myself. But I said to him, look, there was actually a movie back in the 80s, around about 92, called China Girl, right? Based on Romeo and Juliet. The guy was Italian, and he wasn't his family wasn't, part of the mob, and they had their own gang. And then she was Chinese, so they had the triad gang, right? And this was in the Bronx, and it was just a brilliant adaptation. It was just great. Just street fights and stuff like that, and just really amazing, story with that sort of setting 30 years ago. So, but I think people, kind of get all, it has to do with what the person looks like who's playing that role. But I think now everybody's kind of like questions everything now. It's gone into a place where you question everything. So let's have a look at this, and then we'll segue out of this and go skate. And because I was just like, I had to buy a skateboard because it's just some, because when I had rollerblades, right, really expensive rollerblades, and then when I had the car accident, I just couldn't skate anymore. Move my legs normally, and so I left them. It was in the it wasn't like in the washroom at our unit when I left my ex, right, moved out, and so that's there. Probably gonna throw it out or whatever, give it away. But a little while back, I think about 2 years ago, I picked up a skateboard. And it was Element. Like those things used to be expensive in the 90s, man. Like Elements, like they were like probably like about $200 or something, and I picked it up for $8 at a secondhand at a hospice shop, right, or a store, thrift shop as they call it. And I was like, yeah, I want that. And then then of course I've got this painting here, which my friend did that I like to show up all the time. Of tipping weight, on a skateboard, right? I wish, because I used to paint skateboards myself, and so having that done, it's like, yeah, yeah. So I bought a skateboard. Exactly. So I bought a skateboard. So we're gonna watch a video on skateboard, right? And so yeah, and I'm like, I wish I could go skateboarding, but I can't because my leg, I'd be off it, and it's worse than I'm just trying to walk straight, well, upright at the moment. So this is pretty awesome. This is what I mean, like why it's so great to be alive right now. It's just like 87, right? I used to have like 5 of these. If I remember, like 5 of their tapes. I had I Shot Reagan. I think Go Skaters from I Shot Reagan, Light Skate, the same album as I Shot Reagan, right? Go, which kind of was a good segue into what I'm going to be next. But right, Lights Camera Action, Possessed, I think it was Possessed Skate or Institutionalized, and there's a couple. I'm sure there's a couple others I can't remember, but right. So here we go.
The Possessed Skate video was a situation. It's kind of very suicidal kind of story. These people came up to us, they call us up, they say, "Yo, Mike, we're doing a movie, and we want to be doing a soundtrack, and we'll let you guys be in it." Like they're doing us a big favor and stuff. And so we did the song "Possessed to Skate," and actually did it before the record was even out. And we didn't need them. And the movie they did was terrible, and it bombed, and no one's ever heard of it. And the video we did really helped us out a lot.
You remember it took days ago. One of the goals is to tell me that the
I didn't even know it.
I've forgotten anything, I'm going to call.
Mary, we're going to be late for the
Listen, if I've forgotten anything, I'm going to call you.
Now remember, no skateboarding until you've done your homework. Got it?
I don't want you dirtying it up.
Let me grab my skateboard.
Let's skate!
Seemed like such an innocent boy. He was an all-American boy. Got a skate at his old. Now the story can be told. This was his possessed to skate. He takes them up in high. He's a pilot on a pilot flight. See him flying through the air. If you don't land, well, you don't care, 'cause you live. What is gay? Never hesitate. He's a wizard on the wheels. He's a modern gladiator. Ain't got no fear, so gay. The shirts are full like nothing bad. Living in the same as you can be right. Skating is all that's on his mind. Skating radical all the time. Cause he lives. When he skates, he never hesitates. He's a wizard on the wheels. He's a modern gladiator. Ain't got no fear, so gay. So what do we do with them skates? Looks like a magic carpet ride. 6 foot every river backside. I'm a cold looking, it must be. We define insanity, cause he lives. But he's scared, cause he never hesitates. He's a wizard on the wheels. The modern gladiator ain't got no fear, so scared. Doesn't understand what he wanna want. Ain't got time to sit in time. Used to be just like you and me. Now he's an officer of society. So he's most ready to stay. And the skate is radical. Oh. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
I think the skaters were like the first people that really accepted suicidal tendencies, and they have more of a free kind of attitude and stuff. That, you know, you have to be kind of daredevilish and stuff, so they're more open-minded. I think one of the problems with acceptability for suicidal tendencies is the fact that when we started off, we weren't, you know, everybody came from different backgrounds musically, and we all had different ideas of what good music was, and we put it all together and came up with something rather than trying to copy what other people were doing. And right with the way that we look, people had a problem with the way we looked, but that's the way we looked before we were in a band. When we were kids, that's how we dressed, and everybody dressed, and that's just from where we were from. And people say you can't look that way.
It was just run like talking about like that's the way we dressed. Like I went, was it doing some shopping, and this lady, young girl, probably maybe about mid-20s, behind the counter. She goes, "Look, I like the way you dress." I'm like, I said, I'm looking. She goes like, "Oh, was not the dress." She goes, I like your style." And I said, "Oh, it's from when I was young, when I was a skateboarder." He goes, because I'm like, with the t-shirt over the long sleeves and the hat and loose pants, like a wide leg, right? So you're like, I've got these the friggin' things are like about wide, right? Wrong one. Because so they're always gonna, like, all my jeans are like wide leg because skateboarding as well as rollerblading. So it's like that's the way I feel comfortable. I've got shirts and ties, I've got jackets, I've got dress shoes, but I just don't like wearing them. Like, even wherever I go, I'm just like, I'd rather just be casual, just comfortable. And I think a lot of times, I remember like the Suicidal Tendencies hat. I actually had one of those hats. I think it came out either with one of the albums, or you could buy it. But yeah, so I mean, I was wrong. I thought it was like an element, but it's an airwalk. Airwalks are expensive now. These, like, you could buy airwalks anywhere right now. Like, but when they first came out, because they're branded, and so you had to. They'll be around about $200 New Zealand, which would probably be about $60 US or something. I remember when I first bought my Santa Cruz, I had to save up, and I actually hitchhiked with my friend who's over in Korea right now. He's got I think his son just turned 16, so they were in over there when he was 6. and we used to skate together. We're the only two people in our city, like in our little town, because he was in one town and I was in the other town, and we're like about 5 minutes drive away from each other. And so we skate. We built a quarter pipe back at the back of his house from like actually, carrying friggin' timber to the back of the house, and then we had a little. I wasn't that daredevilish, right? I could never pop off, on from a half pipe off the lid, right, off the top, off the edge, right. I just couldn't get myself to do that. I could go in and out of it on the bottom, but I couldn't drop in. That's the word, drop in. I just couldn't drop in from the friggin' top, and I just never could do it. It wasn't in my head. I could do the ollies. I could do crazy stuff. I could go 100 miles an hour, whatever you want to call it, downhill. I could do that, but I could never. And speed was cool. I love speed, but I just couldn't bring myself to drop in from the friggin', from the top of the ramps. And it sucked because I'd been skating for about 6 years or something by that time, and I still couldn't do it. But yeah, so my friend Michael, he's over in taking his son on a second trip to Korea this week, right? So they're over there, South Korea. And so I was just thinking, yeah, Michael and I used to skate. And so I remember going to another town, which is like about an hour, 40 minutes, an hour by car from where we lived. And of course, Michael lived about 5 minutes car drive away from where I lived. So he came over to home, and we together hitchhiked all the way to the other town. And we walked probably a third of the way on a hot sunny day, and then had to hitchhike all the way back again to get to the, spend $120 on a friggin' skateboard, Santa Cruz skateboard. And back then, your sandpaper on these things were like not the smooth, right? They were really friggin' sandpaper. And so it was crazy on your shoes. So I'm not sure if you guys, skaters, if you ever watch like how we used to get like tire tubes and cut them up and flap them over the edge of the, let me see if I can find a shoe nearby. So back in the day when you were skateboarding, what would happen is when you go do ollies, right, you'd have to go like this to pop off on the ollie. And so what would happen is you'd end up like wearing this out. And so this is where it get frayed. This is where your shoe would rip off. So what we used to do, I'm not sure if this is something Americans or people around the world would do, is they would get an old tire tube, tire inner, or rubber inner, and cut out a little, a shape like this. And so we'd put holes in it and then put the laces through, so it just flaps there. And that's the way we could protect our brand new friggin' shoes, or from getting worn out and getting told off by the parents or whoever was buying the shoe, unless you were buying for yourself. But if you're buying it for yourself, you'd be way extra careful, to not to ruin it. So that's the life of a skateboarder, right? As a teenager way back in the late 80s, 90s, you do, you put a piece of tire tubing on your friggin' shoes, and that'll protect that. So that was pretty fun back in the days. So what I'm next up, bit of a downer, and I don't want, it's got to be talked about. It's there, but I want to talk about it in the point of what our media is talking about. Said it yesterday, and go back a week, and then come back to the Aussies, what the Aussie media is saying compared to compared to other medias that you guys have everywhere else. You haven't, I'm kind of like I've always said this before, like I like to watch a whole lot of different things to get information. It's because just the way I was like kind of raised, right? Raised myself to look for answers, not to just just get one answer and you expect and run with that, because that's a good way to fail, right? The more information, the better. So this is something, I'm going to segue to this, and this is something that's a singer person, who decided to, a week before, this is like a private video of mine. Like, so this is the only place that you'll see it on the channel, right? You can't actually see it by going to the channel or anything. But this was off this is off TikTok or something. And I thought that was kind of like weird to see being said a week before, right? This is the way, like, when you, for me personally, because I've studied a lot of communism and stuff like that, we're going to be talking about it a bit later as well, about how communistic societies work, and the way the way dictatorship works as well, or fascism works, is that you demonize your opposition to a point where their life has no value, right? And so once you add no value to that life, there's no stopping people from picking up stones or that. That's how when you dehumanize your opposition or people you disagree with, you get what you got. And I'm going to look at Japan as well, and I'm going to show you about how communism works, because that's something that I look into a lot, because I think democracy is the greatest thing you can have, because you get to just say what you want, but you also, there's rules to that. But dehumanizing people is kind of like the sickest thing you can do, is you take away, it's like you're putting a chain around their neck, right? You're trying to own them and restrict them from being able to speak. And I think this is something that, like, politics, when it gets to that stage, is kind of really sick. And we saw it happen. And we saw it happen 9 months ago in Japan, right? We saw it happen in comedy. When Will Smith basically walked up and struck Chris Rock, we had somebody else go on stage a couple of weeks afterwards and try to stab one of the guys, and on the stage, who was doing his thing, and then but think, you can say what you can say, but calling to violence is going to result in violence. And I've watched this over the last, I think, maybe 8 years of this. Yeah, on and off, maybe the 6 years. I think the last 6 years it's become where it's like basic, one side's based, having to walk on eggshells because the other side is trying to dehumanize them. And the weirdest thing is, like, even people I would think, like family members, right? People, extended family, friends, close friends, distant friends, acquaintances, people who I would think would know better and would, like, be wiser to things, like to the ways of the world, right? And mature and understand that, but they still aren't, right? It's like you think that they're like that dehumanizing someone or taking sides without understanding the whole thing would make you, what you call it, like your, hairs on your back rise up, go, something's not right here, right? So I don't, that's something I think it's really sad to see, and we're seeing more and more, because I think the idea, it's like, how do you get a one-ups on somebody else? You can go, oh, they're the worst kind of, oh, they're that didn't even like me putting dehumanize in the thing. All right, why do people dehumanize, right? So what happens when you dehumanize? I think this is, what happens when people dehumanize. I wonder if they'll let me do that. So I'm looking at the chat here. It's telling me what I can put in there or not. There we go. It will let me put that in there. So let's have a look at what happens when people dehumanize other people. Sorry for the long segue, but yeah.
I'm done. I'm fucking seriously done. The Supreme Court has pissed me off so much right now. Like, so much. Joe, you're a reasonable man. You don't want to do this, but here's the reality. This is a fucking war. This is a war now, and we are fighting for our fucking country. And these assholes are going to take it away. They're going to take it away. Fuck you, Clarence Uncle Thomas. Fuck you. Joe, you now have the right to take that bitch Trump out. Take him out, Joe. If he was Hitler and this was 1940, you'd take him out. Well, he is Hitler and this is 1940. Take him the fuck out. Blow him up. Blow him up or they'll blow us up. Facts.
So that she basically was saying that to about 130,000 people, over 130,000 followers that I could, like the minimum number that I could find, right? And that was a week before the shooting, right? This weekend. So imagine how many crazies are amongst that crowd, right? And so people go, oh yeah, there's violence on both sides, but if you have the numbers job is this, that there's more violence on one side. There's one call to arms on, violent arms on one side, and that lady just, she's a celebrity. She's saying that. Other people are doing some crazy stuff, saying crazy stuff as well. Like there was this one with Mark Waid, right, comic book writer, right, and Heather Antos, saying stuff like that as well. So, right, so they deleted their thing after they got caught out, saying that like this is not right. So this is Mark Waid, an article on Fandom Pulse. Mark Waid and Heather Antos cheer the assassination attempt of Donald Trump as the comic industry continues a decline, right? So Marvel and DC Comics and IDW should be ashamed of their employees, right? So so comics industry professionals. So let me pop this over there so we can get the title. So this is what happens when you dehumanize people, right? You don't see them as human anymore. So let me pop that over to where I'm smaller. Here we go, and get that off there. So are we seeing that? Am I on the wrong page? No, I'm on the right page. All right, so comic industry professionals lower the bar once again as statements from Mark Waid, DC Comics, also from Humanoid over in Europe, and also Marvel Comics, right? And Vita Ayala, Marvel Comics, Heather Antos, IDW, who just lost Transformers and G.I. Joe to Skybound Image Comics because of how they treated that internationally recognized global IPs, right? Franchises, right? So yeah, so these three appear to encourage more political violence or to wish ill upon Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump after an unhinged lunatic attempted his assassination at a rally yesterday. Comic books have faced unending troubles in recent years as the entire industry has been seen as an extreme leftist political activism wing rather than an industry meant to produce entertainment for young boys like it has traditionally been. And you can argue that point till the cows come home, right? As we say in the farming community of New Zealand, but that's how it's always been and always been. Comics is majority like 60-70% male orientated. It's a visual medium that males learn to read from early on in life. so they end up then being in love with it and carry on with that for the rest of their life, like I've done. Like I know many people my age who have done that, like who are in comics, who started in comics as young people. Like I've got friends who got into drawing and writing comics as children who are now artists, right? Messing around, doodling and stuff like that, and now are doing that. And myself, right? I remember I was like about 14 years old, or I think it might have been 15, when I first tried to do my first page of a comic strip, right? Nothing happened with it later, at that time. But later, years later, here I'm writing, comic books. So it is, it's not like you don't see like a lot of girls, females, getting into comics and then staying with it for the rest of their life, right? The way that males do, because that's why you see males so holding on to fandoms like comics, like sci-fi, like mainly sci-fi fantasy, right? Because there's some like these escapisms, and that's something we escape into. Whereas like we're telling each other stories, like such and such. That's why, like I said, G.I. Joe and Transformers, it became so huge because of the guys. It wasn't the girls playing with them, right? You had the Barbie, you got your Barbie dress ups and all that. Yeah, that's it, right? But you look at how many IPs are they've come from males who are following them all through their lives, like decades and decades, and then passing it on to their children, passing on to, like in my case, passing on to my nephew, right, or nieces, right, and then sort of that's how, like I was saying earlier, we want to see when you're in a fandom, like music or whatever, you want to grow it out. Hey, I love Megadeth, so check out this, man. You never heard, listen to this, check it out. As I mentioned, like my friends, my two friends when I went to the city, they weren't even metalheads, right? They were into hip hop, and within like 6 months or so, they were into metalhead, right? They were into Megadeth, they're into Metallica, right? To a point where one of my friends basically ended up becoming a guitarist, playing metal, right? And us being a band, like I was saying earlier. So the idea that, like, they keep saying that the modern audience, the girls, they'll come to it. Listen, they have their own thing. You can't force feed someone, what was that horse thing? You can't take a horse to the water and then make it drink this. It don't want to drink that. It won't drink that. That's how, and that's what fandom is like to females. Like this whole thing that they want to create a modern audience. It ain't working because it's not their thing, right? Why do you think more females gravitate towards anime and especially manga, right? Because it's got a lot of relationships in there. Those stories they're not action packed. A lot of them, they might have action in it, but not to the majority that are in comics, right? And so you'll see more females go towards that. You'll see, here's a crazy thing, right? Females like dressing up sexy based on characters from female, they see comics who look sexy, right? Costumes. I've seen crazy ass things where anime girls are, girls who are into anime dress up in those costumes. Costumes would be, I freak out over as a male, right? I'm going, what the hell, man? In public, you're dressing up like this in public, but now it's like we see nude males in public, right, around kids, so, or females, and we're supposed to accept all that. But anyway, there's another thing. So the idea that like the two others, that there's an audience for comics that suddenly appeared out of nowhere is not true, right? And sorry for the segue from this thing, but like I think this idea that people think that like there is this invisible audience for comics, right? Because if there was, that would be it. The comic industry would be very healthy now, because when the males walked away, and they did in droves, and they still are. There's no that invisible audience that they were all chasing up, that modern audience, that female audience, the young girls, all that, they never came, and they will never come because this is not for them. And so what they've done instead, they've tried to water down what comics was to a point where it's not action adventure. Now it's relationship and drinking coffee or sleeping around or who's sleeping with who, right? So rather than going out and being heroes in the stories, now you're just finding out who's sleeping with who, and it's just drawn out. And so that audience that was there for the, hey, let's go be heroic, let's go, how would Superman behave in this situation faced with this, or what would Batman do in situation with this, or what would Spider-Man do, if he's doing this, right? If Doc Ock does this, what does Spider-Man do, right? So you're basically learning to figure out, you're thinking through what you're reading, and so like I was talking the other day about how I think we, even though I'm not religious, and I still think that we need the 10 Commandments, right, to understand a moral way. You don't have to be religious, but if you have that 10 Commandment in your life and thinking about that, thou shalt not kill, right? Thou shalt not covet, right? Thou shalt not steal. Those are all things that we can live by, that our laws are based on. So if we live by that without being religious, we would be better people for each other. And so this is what I'm saying. Like, and because we don't have that towards each other, we easily can go down this hill of dehumanizing the other, right? So that person is bad. So, I don't know them, so they must be worse, right? Or if they do something, no, man, they must be doing something, thinking even worse, right? So we become this thought police on them. And all this over the last 8 years, like imagine like the day before he announced his presidency, 2016, right? He's loved by the Black community, like loved by them. They love him, right? Because he's out there helping them all the time. He's and this is what I learned this way after the fact, right? Because I was away for like the last 6 years. When I came back, I was away from everything, right? Kind of took a sabbatical out of social media, out of everything, right? And so I didn't know what was going on. And then when I came back, I was like, well, what is going on? Why are there people? Who is this? How is this orange dude, right? Or whatever. What's going on? So I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking. Oh, okay, now I understand, right? And so I'm not watching the sound bites. I'm not watching, the 2-minute like little interviews. I'm actually going, what other people say about him? How come all these people that used to like him are suddenly not liking him? And why not? Oh, that's because the other side is saying all this, right? And so then you get to this point, and I've been in situations like this myself, right? I'm like, I've had to walk away from a lot of things, like people, right? Where I'm like, wait. So they said that, and you took it as that, and now you don't like them, and now they don't like you, and now it's all this, and you want me to be what? Okay, now I'm just out, right? I'm just walking away out of this. So they do stuff like this. Like this is in the comic books, right? This is in an Image comic book, right? I think it's part of the Image wing. There's about 4 of them, right? I can't remember which one, but I think hopefully the journal here will be telling us. Anyway, so here we go. Carrying on with this. Sorry for the long side there opinion piece. Yeah, so it started with diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Being forced into the companies with its content and the people hired. At one point in 2017, the Federalist published an expose on how every Marvel Comics writer was tweeting hatred about Trump. 2017, a year, right? a year, like within months, I guess, like after he got it. But here's what I'm saying: like before he announced, this is a guy who kind of like got inherited some stuff and then spent years, decades building up. So he's not a guy who went into politics from college and went into politics like so many people do, right? Oh, okay, we're there, and and just straight in there, and that's all. You spend decades there. It's someone who's met people, lived with people, been around people, hung out with people, real people, not the elites, right? Not going to the wine and cheese gatherings, but actually going to working with people on the ground. And this is what I think for me personally, I was like, I understand that, right? Because like I was saying way earlier, that when I moved away from home at the age of, I think 16 going on 17, I met people I had never, of races I had never met before. And they were my age and I worked with them, and I got to really, realize that they're just like me. They have the same struggles like me. They're going through the same thing I'm going through, and the difficulties they're facing, I'm facing, or the joys I'm facing, they're facing, right? And together we became very close, right? And so I think when we do this sort of stuff, and we let people keep getting away with it in our entertainment, right? I mean, look at that. Like every Marvel writer was tweeting hatred about Trump when he became president, right? Conservatives and Christians, right? So, and there's another thing I'm gonna pop up soon about Christians right now from another writer that I was gonna actually, give big ups to, and realize that holy shit, he's gone crazy as well. So, and but this is like the Savage Dragon, right? This has been around for like since the 90s, so 30 years. We're pretty far removed from America, right, as Kiwis. But to be honest, we're not really, because all our entertainment, like much 60, 70, 80% of them, maybe about 70%, right, of our entertainment comes from America, which means that's 80% of all, basically all comics, that 90% of comics that comes to New Zealand, entertainment, books, music, is from America. So it's very easily to get a leftist mentality if you don't think for yourself, if you don't go out of your way to look beyond that little wall that's in front of you of leftism, right? On everything. Like, I mean, like the fact that like every, right? Not just one or two, but every Marvel writer was, putting hatred towards Trump, towards Christians, conservatives, right? I come from a family of Christians. I come from a family of Hindus. I've got Muslims in my family, right? Extended family members and so on, and atheists or agnostics, whatever you want to have, like people who don't believe or people who believe but don't practice, right? All that. So I don't know how people could basically not have a wider open view about things in life, because if you see everything in black and white, that's a very dangerous place to be, because as we found out, because you can spew hatred to a point where someone will tick off in their brain, and that's it. Now this is what I got to do to silence that someone from going forward, because they've been feeding into this since 2016. They've been dehumanizing, demonizing, was it like half the country? How do you do that without realizing that somewhere amongst them could be your brother and your sister, your mom or your dad, and people have like basically like walked away from their family members because of politics. It's weird, man. Like I've seen people say, "Oh, I don't talk to my family anymore because they voted for Trump." Did you ask them what was the point why they thought they should vote for that guy? Or even like in New Zealand, I go, well, this is what I agree to, this is what I don't like. I voted for that person because I thought that was pretty cool. And if they don't go through that, then I'm going to vote for some other person. I don't know how, and because this is not the only place it's happened, right? 9 months ago, there was in Japan, if I remember right, right? Abe, and we're going to have a look at that as well. But let's carry on with this. Excuse me. The industry hasn't turned around, but has worsened in subsequent years. People like extremist Heather Antos, very much like everything kind of, anything that's like posted by her is very extreme. Have only been promoted in the street to determine who gets hired or blacklisted. Sales have fallen off a cliff due to, and the fact that IDW lost friggin' G.I. Joe. And the other thing here is that G.I. Joe is basically going to go downhill as well, even at Skybound, right? Looking at what's happening with the Scarlet, right? The redhead, like I can't remember her first name, but like one of the characters, Scarlet. I had like we did a toy show, like live stream, so we used to do like a Sunday or Saturday 2-hour toy live show, right? Toy stream collecting live show, and a couple of my friends on there, hosts and guests were like big G.I. Joe fans. So I know a bit about Scarlet, and I watched a couple of the cartoons and stuff. But yeah, carrying on with this. So sales have fallen off the cliff due to the last decade's worth of political activism by the entire industry. As most, let me just check something here. As most, where am I? There we go. As most, as most average comic readers have tuned out due to the wokeism making for stories that aren't worth reading, right? I'm one of those guys, right? After decades of it. Yesterday should have been, so this is like written yesterday, so it would be like the day before, right? So yesterday should have been a turning point where the country would come together because of an insane person taking multiple shots at former President Donald Trump at a rally. And not only that, one person died. A dad died protecting his wife and daughter, right? And a couple others were injured, right? But the vast majority of the comic industry is calling for more political violence or wishing death on him instead of showing they have any moral compass. It's no wonder they can't write heroes anymore when they don't have any basic standard of human decency. This is what I mean. Like I said, like the whole moral thing, right? I think we should at least have understanding of the 10 Commandments about why that is a moral lesson in life, right? The whole idea, thou shalt not kill. Why won't you kill? Because you take somebody's life away from their loved ones, from themselves. Thou shalt not steal. You take away somebody's property from them, from people who need them, that they worked hard for, right? Stuff like that, And so it's very simple rules to live by, right? So IDW senior editor and head of licensing, Heather Antos, is a woman who runs the Star Trek brand ran the Star Trek underground, and so there's a bit more about her. So that she's part of the, she's got a background with IDW's with a comic book company, right? Publisher. So IDW senior editor and head of licensing, Heather Antos, is a woman who runs the Star Trek brand into the ground for the last several years, as well as been involved in a child grooming anthology to try to encourage children into bodily mutilation through transgenderism. They might have sunk. I'm not anything to do with grooming. I think just leave the kids alone, man. She might have sunk to a new low in her response to Donald Trump's attempted assassination by comparing him to a Star Wars Emperor Palpatine, right? So I'll just leave this here. The attempt on my life, it's and so I'm just going to read these. You guys can I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can read that for the rest of it for yourself. So I don't, I'm going to go through this for ages, but I'll get. Yeah, so the most essential article I ever read, been quite an article. Yeah, there is a bit of like a lot of personal biases in there, but that's why I always jump ahead and get to this freaking Twitter because I realized he was doing a lot of that. So the link is in the chat, so you can check it out there for the bones, right? But I just wanted to bring up this shit. So pray that the shooter was wearing a RFK. This is like Mark Wade, right? He's actually a publisher for a European brand called Humanoid, who used to publish Metal Hoolant, which is heavy metal, right? Europe. So he goes, pray that the shooter was wearing RFK, was it Robert F. Kennedy Jr. t-shirt. If you're just tuning in, some effing idiot with shitty eyesight just clinched the election for Trump. Okay, so yeah. And then you got Vita Ayala, liberals, Donald Trump and Project 2025 has an existential threat. Also liberals, get well soon. So, yeah. Gail Simone jumped in as well. I don't know what happened to Gail. She used to be okay, but then, yeah. Okay, just caught up with the shooting thing. It would be maybe weird, but I'm going to wait until we know more before freaking out. This is bad. It shouldn't happen. Good fortune to us all. Yeah, that was pretty weird. So here's something, right? So one would think Gail Simone's basic level of morality should at least be echoed by the others. That yeah, it was a bit balanced, right? Because like if you go, I'm going from this to I'm going, oh, okay. But yeah, I think Gail used to be like pretty full on the lefty, and then she's now become more central and kind of a change to herself in the last couple of months. Actually, last year or so, I think. Maybe she's realized that what they've been doing with all this rhetoric is actually harming the industry they are trying to earn a living from. Anyway, so then, of course, he goes and like deletes his post, accuses everybody else, makes everybody else the enemy as usual. Oh, because excuse me. He goes, because right wing. This is Mark Wade. Should be working instead. Maybe you should, Mark. Maybe you should work instead of being on Twitter. Because right-wing lunatics and comics incels have made a campaign today of sickly twisting my condolences about yesterday's tragedy, who claims that I cheer political violence, I've deleted my post. I will not give them any fuel to spread their disgusting lies. The weird thing is, internet is forever. So you can go back up there and read that. Pray that the shooter was wearing an RFK Junior t-shirt. Nobody's taking that out of context. It's there, Mark. If you're just tuning in, some effing idiot with shitty eyesight just clinched the, basically saying, well, if he had better eyesight, he would have shot him, and that would have been great for us, which is kind of sick, to be honest. So, yeah. Oh, and also, Neil Gaiman. Nobody's talking about Neil Gaiman. He got accused by 2 women. But what I want to bring up is how New Zealand, how yesterday's morning breakfast TV dealt with this, which I kind of thought was like kind of sick, right? So as I said before, you won't see this because I've privated it because, again, you'll just see it on the stream. But so here's so here's New Zealand TV yesterday morning, day after, just only several hours after the shooting.
This is great. Okay, Donald Trump's here. So let's say Donald Trump.
It doesn't hurt.
Down there.
Or
Does it have like a laser?
I'm not sure it's actually that far.
I feel like there needs to be a laser on this thing. Or do you,
Well,
okay.
this is.
Oh! Hey! That was huge. We got to get rid of these guys. They're coming into our country.
Hang on.
Sorry.
Okay,
So
one more shot,
how
and
much
then we
fun this
safety
could
catch.
potentially be.
and then we put in the bug of salt away.
This is fun. I shouldn't have.
There you go.
Who thought
Shouldn't
you'd
have
be the
chemical
dad?
sprayed my house. To use
There's
this.
a lot. It's quite
Oh, this
salty
is
already.
Yeah.
Riveting television.
Good. Oh, yeah, I can't do the pump action.
Well, you got it.
Go.
Here we go. But it'd be quite good for dinner parties, wouldn't it? I need a bit of salt on that. Bam. Yeah.
Yeah. See, look. Here you go.
Plenty of salt there, isn't
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, right? Is the cleanup afterwards.
The salt everywhere. Yeah.
But it does the
fun.
trick if you
not looking at-
work on your target practice, obviously. So
Yeah.
get a little doll, a little Donald Trump doll,
Yeah.
and go hard. Just don't shoot other people.
No.
So yeah, that was our lefty news people, right, here in New Zealand. Like, that's leftism. This is what, like, you know, it's weird. Like, I watched it, I was like, holy shit. Do you realize that a dad died? That a guy who was just there with his wife and daughter died protecting them, and you're making fun of people who have just died because your hatred and your vitriol for some guy who's running in an election somewhere else in another country? I just thought that was sickening, man. Yeah. Let me find you. Yeah. So this is where's that other one? Here we go. There's a couple things here. All right. So I'm going to look at we're going to go to Japan. And so this was like a year ago, and this is like Chinese people's reaction to Japanese Shinzo Abe's murder, right, assassination, only a year ago over in Japan. And so this is what I'm trying to correlate how our friggin' New Zealand television hosts, who, if it's TVNZ, they're paid by citizens. It's a taxpayer-funded broadcaster, which means they have a set of standards they have to, broadcast by. And so I'm thinking that they've basically breached, whatever the standards are, because it feels like here's the thing, like when the shooter did the shooting in Christchurch about 4 years ago, there was nobody was allowed to make any fun of that. Nobody was talking about anybody because all these Muslims died, right? An Australian crazy dude came over here and shot up a mosque, right? Or two. I think it was like one. I think there was one or two. Now, weird. One of my mom's friend was husband had died in that, by the way. And so, it affected a lot of us in that community because there was a lot of people that were from Fiji, right? Muslims from Fiji that attended there, Indians who had converted to Muslims and Islam, right? And so, and there was a whole thing about it, why that happened. And because one of the reasons was because one of the guys from that mosque was a terrorist overseas. And so they saw, this is all the things, you find out later that they were teaching, they had some demand there, recruiting. Anyway, so we didn't get out there and start making fun of it because nobody, TVNZ wasn't making fun of it at that time. Remember, a person died here, right? A dad. I think if I remember, he was a former fireman, ex-fireman, right? So this is from Hindustan Times. This is from an Indian, mainland India newspaper. And so It reads, Chinese youth mocks Shinzo Abe, celebrates ex-Japan PM's killing by impersonating the shooter. Just like they do just there, right? You know, with the salt thing. So this is just for you guys listening. This is just there you go to this. Chinese youth celebrates thing impersonating. This is right, so he goes here. Shooter Tetsuya Yamagami mimicked, hailed as hero. So how low is too low? There is now a challenge in mainland China to mimic the assassin of Japan's former PM, Abe Shinzo. They consider it's fun to dress and strike pose the same way as assassins. So you can see him here. This is the dude. So you got more people. This is so when I saw like yeah, when I heard, because I was like on a live stream for 3 hours, and I just before that I woke up, got a shower, so I didn't know there was a shooting until like about, I think about 6 hours later, right? And that was because I was watching Niobe Comics on their live stream, and they're talking about this is what's happened. I was like, what do you mean what's happened? Who got shot? You know? And so I went and looked up, and oh, holy shit. You know, and straight away I was like, wait, yeah, this is the end goal of every commie, right? There's like you eliminate your opposition. So I was like, yep, lefties are commies. And because you could go, oh yeah, but you're being just as radical about it. But the thing is, like, the thing about communism is that you don't want any opposition. See, we live in a democratic society, so if your way is to dehumanize people to a point where, you know, you got to take, like the lady was doing, like, you got to take them out, Joe. You got to take it out. It's war, Joe. You know, that's no more, Joe. And 220,000 people of her followers, and how many more others have viewed that prior to that week, right? That when she'd done it, I put it out to, and then the shooting. I just thought, like, you know, it's just crazy that, like, that's the angle of that. But here's the another video, right, from that same thing. So here's in mainland China. I saw this like about a year ago, maybe 6 months ago, and I thought that was crazy. So this was 9 months ago. So would have been just like less than that when I actually saw it. So this is them actually children at a school in China, because of course they heard of, you know, they have a deep-rooted hatred towards China because of towards Japan, because World War II. However, if you look into the West, we've already forgiven and have gotten past Germany and Japan, because we know those people who were there who did those have moved on. I mean, are gone now, right? Not moved on, but are gone now. So we cannot make their children's children carry the burden or the sin of what happened in the past. Just like we shouldn't have to have anybody carry the sin or of reparation for people who are long gone because of slavery, right? Living in the past like that is not good for anybody. But as you can see, it's not China doesn't see that, right? So this is like from October last year. It's not even a year, right? 9 months ago. Right. So they're reacting at their school. They're young children, high school children, right? Of ex-Japanese president or prime minister, Shinzo Abe being shot in the head, right? Shot dead. This is why it's called right? Finding joy in the death of others, right? Even reenacting it, just like that New Zealand friggin' TV show did yesterday morning here on national TV. Because in New Zealand we have TVNZ, which is national, taxpayer funded. Then you have TV3, which is a corporation, which is out of Japan, not Japan, sorry, Canada. That's part of this whole multinational thing, global media company, and that's about it. And then the others are like Prime and all that are like privately owned, like streaming sites and all that, and Netflix, whatever. But TVNZ is a New Zealand government funded not government funded, taxpayer funded channel. I think there's about 3 or 4 that they have. So those guys yesterday morning, a day after, less than 24 hours later, are reenacting the death of a father, right? Just because they have hatred for someone they've never met, right? Because most of the time it's like people hate other people because they don't know them. They haven't been in a relationship with them. They haven't had a conversation with them. They haven't sat down and drank or had a smoke with them, right? And so because of that, people tend to, it's easy to dehumanize people. Like these guys, they've never been to Japan, right? They've probably never met a Japanese person, yet they've been taught from childhood, from very at the moment they can read, right? Or when they go to school to learn to read, that Japanese are the evil demons. So, recently there was a situation in Japan where a guy, a so-called influencer, right? A streamer from China was there, and he pissed all over, urinated on a shrine in Japan. How do you go as a tourist to another country and do that? And so, and then there was a bus of children and teachers and visiting Japan, right? And this guy jumped on, knowing that they were Japanese, and started knifing them, stabbing them on the bus, these kids and the teacher, right? And so a Chinese lady who was a driver of that bus tried to stop him, and she did. And, however, the people turned on her and said, why didn't you let him carry on doing it? Right? That's where it's gotten to now. And then that's what I'm saying. The communists will behave that way, all right? Because they don't see, they don't see people as humans. They've gotten to a point, they've got trained to a point where there's no correlation between that's another human being. And so we should be caring and stuff. So I thought that was kind of weird when I saw this, and then seeing the behavior of the media, right? And I'm not talking about, we looked at some people who are in the media, right? Or in the comic book industry who are saying that leave aside or anything else, anybody else is, putting their own commentary on, even myself, right? But actually what the media is saying. And it's well, there's got to be a point where you go, no, hold on. This has gone too far, right? This is why I thought the Chris Rock thing with Will Smith was bad, because they just let him get back on the stage and oh, get my wood and crying. After punching a dude or slapping a dude in front of the entire world, right, over a joke that wasn't even offensive. Even he laughed at, right, well, laughed at it before, but he got the side eye. Of course, you know, but, and here's the thing, right, that's what I was saying, like earlier on, I was saying about how men like to keep it all in, boil in until the last moment. That's basically what that was with Will Smith, you know, but they celebrated that afterwards. They were like, you know, like the friggin' Academy Awards, whatever it was, you know, basically let him back on, like within a friggin' couple of minutes or something of it. After doing that, he, you know, enacting violence on another human being. You should not touch another person, right? We know that, but it's kind of weird. Like, so anyway, and then the other thing is that there's been a lot of rhetoric coming from overseas, right? So I want to show you something that's like, this is, you know, like I was saying, like here's New Zealand, and I'm going to show you Australia, right? So this is from what the Sky News Aussie said about it. Where is that one that I had saved up? One sec, I need to get to the Sky News page. Geez, they put out, oh well, it's a new site, I guess. That's why they probably put out. Zing. Take a moment, guys. Apologies for that. Actually, let me just carry on playing that video. You guys can watch that while I find it. Right, so another, oh yeah, so it's like, it's patriotic, right? And so it's nothing. So it's like, you know, as long as it's patriotism, it's okay to behave that way. All right, so here's the Sky News thing, and I think this is the most I'll let you guys make up your own mind for it. So this is sad news, sad day for Australia. This is from Sky News. This is Gabriella Power, and we will look at this, and when we'll finish, this will be the last thing for today. I had some others planned, but we'll cover that another day.
It is a sad, sad day for America. It is hard to find the words to describe the shock and the horror that people are feeling right now, after many of us were witnessing on live television the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. This is a devastating day for America. Right now, people are pouring their hearts out on social media and posting "Pray for Trump." Many of the people I'm speaking with over there are feeling scared about how close this was. Looking at the still images, you can see the bullet that pierced his right ear as he gets up with blood smeared on his face.
Look what happened.
This horrific act has just deepened an already huge divide in the United States of America. But if you were following media outlets like CNN today, well, you would have thought that Donald Trump had a fall. Look at this headline. Secret Service rushed Trump off stage after he falls at rally. Falls. It was an assassination attempt. He's not Joe Biden that doesn't know how to stand up. And that's not a one-off headline. This morning, I was looking at my phone and I was taking screenshots because even though it's CNN, I still couldn't believe it. The next headline I saw, Trump injured in incident at rally. Incident. That's really what they wanted to go with when the man who's been president before and is running again was just shot. Oh, and there's more. Video captures what happened at Trump rally that left him injured. Ooh, wonder what it could be. CNN is using the video as clickbait while refusing to acknowledge what it is that just occurred, and that is an attempt to murder the man who is running for president, something that has not happened since 1981 when there was an assassination attempt on Republican President Ronald Reagan. I scroll further down CNN's website and I get to analysis, and of course there's this headline, Trump is favoured but Biden can still win this election. Well, I really doubt that. But let's leave CNN for now. I have more to say about their coverage in a moment because it actually gets worse. And let's look at some of the other reaction we are seeing today. And remember, America is right now feeling the weight and the heartbreak of what has unfolded today. But Colorado Democrat Stephen Woodrow posted on X, the last thing we need was sympathy for the devil, but here we are. Really classy. You know, comments like that are expected from troll accounts, but politicians, well, it really gives us an insight into how dark and how ugly some of the thinking and some of the attitudes are, and also how much hate there is for Donald Trump. So let's look at what some of the Democrats have said in the past. Have they ever called for political violence?
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
That's it right there. Pull it up.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
It is just disgusting. Now back to CNN, because according to them, despite surviving an assassination attempt, there's no legitimate threat to Donald Trump.
Donald Trump and the people around him perceive themselves to be under threat. And that's all that matters. That is not legitimate. That is wrong.
Oh, and here's more CNN coverage complaining about how Trump reacted seconds after someone tried to kill him.
I do want to say there was one thing that when I watched the tape, I found odd because of all of the heated rhetoric. And that is that after he was hit, former President Trump got up and said, fight, fight, fight. I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message that we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down.
Now, we all know that those comments were going to come at some point. Let's find a way to criticize or even blame Donald Trump when we analyze how he was almost murdered on stage. But those comments came even faster than expected, just hours after he was attacked and while he was still recovering in hospital. There is no question that this is such a scary time for America right now. The people I've been speaking to say that they are scared after what they have witnessed and also what the future holds. But after today, I suspect we are going to see a lot more support for Donald Trump. We're seeing this already. Billionaire Elon Musk posted on X today, I fully endorse President Trump and hope for his rapid recovery. Despite all the hate in the world and even an assassination attempt, Donald Trump is not giving up.
Wait.
This is the latest from authorities in the US.
Is that the FBI stands with the people of Butler County in Western Pennsylvania, and our hearts go out to the victims of this heinous act which occurred today. This is our community, and I want to let the public know that the FBI has deployed a number of our resources, including investigative agents, our evidence response team, bomb technicians, and we have additional resources coming from other field offices, as well as from FBI headquarters, including our evidence response from Quantico, Virginia. We have intelligence analysts as well, working from our field office in Pittsburgh, working feverishly to attempt to identify the individual who did this and any motives behind why this was done. Right now, we need the public's help. Anyone who was on scene, who saw anything, who identified any information, please report that to the FBI using either the phone number 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at fbi.gov/Butler. This evening we had what we're calling an assassination attempt against our former president, Donald Trump. It's still an active crime scene. As I mentioned, we have a number of agents on scene. We also are working closely with other federal agencies, our state partners, and our local police partners as well. Again, at this time, we are not prepared to identify who the shooter is. We are close to that identification, and as soon as we are 100% confident in who that individual is, we will share it with the press. With that being said, also, we do not currently have an identified motive, although our investigators are working tirelessly to attempt to identify what that motive was.
All right. Well, that's it for me for now. I'm going to be back later to talk about let me find it on our other channel, on our comics channel, because after the YouTube ban I went under, I decided that the best way to do is, like, I have two channels up, one that just concentrates on our comic books that we create, and another that would just come and talk about whatever and interview people, chat to people about comics, about whatever, kind of interests me. That way I can, kind of separate the two, and, in case this one gets, banned again, or locked up again, I can still be able to promote our comic books and still have our guys come on and talk about the work they're doing on there. So let me just find that channel. It is Punch Comics. That's the one we have it on there. Let me just grab the link, so if you guys haven't been to that one yet, you'll be able to pop over there. What is going on with this? Thank you. Just want to slow down for me. All right, so where are you? Where have you gone? It's kind of hidden away. Right. Doesn't even want to move on me. Stupid screen. All right. Anytime now, whenever you're ready. Here we go. So this is the channel there. It's Plunge Comics, and we'll be on this one in about another hour's time, live on here in an hour's time. So please pop over there and join us. Link, subscribe to it, like, share it, and this one as well, so that way we can, keep promoting, keep sharing, bringing up all these comics ideas, what we are working on, things that we're going to be doing, and also what the guys are working on, and got some really cool things coming up that they've created with me. You know, I'm writing it, coming up with these ideas, and then, you know, having these amazing talented people come up and work with me on them. Like this one here, this art is from James D. Hill, who is the artist on the next comic we got coming out in about December sometime. With it, you know, we're going to put out, we're going to re-gig the Templeton one, and then the Robot Nation one, and then put the Templeton one out later on this year. And that's the cover for The Tortoise, which is one of our mangas. So, because I've always wanted to do a manga, and finally, you know, we got an artist who's able to do that, and we're going to be releasing it as a single book, you know, as a manga, you know, complete book, and then also as 4 single issues, so you can have these awesome, you know, cover art on them, like this one here. This is a wraparound cover art, kind of like a risque bikini, whatever. Cover, and then there's also, you know, kind of a bit more risque, and then a normal one, and then, you know, so on. But we've got some amazing things coming out from our Plunge Studios, Plunge Comics, and hopefully you guys can follow us on this journey to get this work, you know, out into the world, and maybe you'll support us as well. So wherever you are, be well, be safe, and like you know, like I say, you know, if you've got a loved one close by, give them a hug and a kiss, and let them know that you care. And especially if you got a male in the house, young boy, you know, teenager or whatever, just let them know that you know, that they appreciate it. We're a bit more frail than mentally, I guess, as males. Otherwise, you wouldn't have such a high male suicide rate. So whatever the case, you know, wherever you are, you know, whatever way you can find to, you know, show your concern for another person, or share your love, you know, because we live in a world that's full of technology to help us make it easier. So use that, and please do check out our friends' channels. And you know, there are so many great things happening right now that we can celebrate. One of the greatest thing I think I've seen on YouTube right now is that there's a Starman. If you have not seen that short, that Starman short, that is friggin' the best thing that's out there. Let me just play this on the way out, right? And then we'll be back in another hour. But like, where do I go to get this Starman thing? Give me one sec, because I just love the Starman. Where are you? It's running all over the place, but not where I want it. Give me one sec. All right, here we go. So let's go to shorts. So if you just go to shorts on anything, you know, I think usually it comes up, and I think that's one of the greatest things. So let me see what's the shorts on this channel, and if it'll come up, we'll just need to Starman. Hold on. Clips, shorts. It's like this hero thing that's happening with this where are you? Heroes. I think it's heroes. But this is one, like, I think this is the most awesome savings or something like that. I'm not sure how you look at it, but I'm sure you guys have seen these videos. But I think these shorts are they're so awesome. I don't know why they're not coming out. I've seen so many of them. Here, like this, right? There's Starman in the sky.
There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds. There's a starman waiting in the There's a starman waiting in the sky. He'd like to come and meet us, but he thinks he'd blow our minds.
And one of the things about this, about these Starman things, it's males. And that's why I think it's pretty interesting is that you're seeing much all these videos that come up as Starman videos, from David Bowie's song, and then an image of like Superman, and all of these videos feature males, and I think that's such a positive thing right now, and just because everybody's like been like for the last decade or so been really crapping, and like entire media, right, entertainment, everything's been crapping on males, and that whole bear thing, I didn't even know what it was until like a week ago, what that was all about. Well, I actually know until this weekend what that was. Like somebody was explaining what that was. Would you rather spend a day with a bear or with like a lifetime with a male kind of thing, whatever it was. And I'm like, is that how bad we've become as a society where like the gender is so thing? And so when I see this, I love these videos. I think it's just, I would just sit there and go, okay, this next one. Wow. Because, and this is what I'm saying about like how, comics, right? Comics was, superhero comics is about being heroic. And I think what's happened is all the political crap has come in and taken all the heroes and all the moral stories out of comic books. And so all you have now is an empty, husky rubbish, which has turned anybody who used to be into that away and is not drawing the new crowd to it. That's like me. Like I'm watching a, I was going to finish, but I just want to say, I'm watching and I'm really enjoying it. It's coming out once a week, so it's really sucky. It's not, it's not like a stream binge thing. So but it's about a dude, right? An anime, right? About a dude. It's called, where are you? It's not that one. Yeah, this is it. It's called A Journey, right? It's called A Journey Through Another World, Raising Kids While Adventuring. It's a long name, right? So it's a long name, but it's this really, really cool, really cool and wholesome anime, right? This is what I mean, like why everybody's turning like people who used to be Western people, right? Whatever, even Asian people who used to be into comic books are turning away from comic books because the morals, the joy, the adventures, the heroism isn't there anymore. So the idea behind this story, right, is that is it Kanabe? Yeah, Kayano, right? So Kayano, right, is a dude, accidentally dies, gets murdered, or accidentally gets killed, whatever, by a god, right? One of the 5 gods or something, spirits, and then the god's apologetic, is a young teenage sized person, right? And so because of that, and I'll bring it up in a minute, and because of that, so he goes, hey, look, I'm really sorry, I can't send you back or anything, you're out of that world, but hey, I'm going to really help you. It's a usual isekai story. However, the thing about this is that he's in a jungle, he's in a forest, and comes across these 2 kids, like twins, right? Blue-haired twins. He has no idea who they are, and they're kind of scared of him because he's a stranger, this adult dude, right? And then there's these kids that are about 5 years old or something. I think about 5 years, I would say, around, about 5 years, and then he just goes, okay, well, how are you? What are you doing here? And then he decides, well, being a caring person, takes them with him, like gives them food and goes, hey, looking after this total strangers, right? Like kids, they could be anything because he's in a weird world. They could be monsters for all he knows. But it gives them food, and then he goes, okay, I'm going to the city. This is not a safe place for you being in the forest. Let's go to the city. And so they, and then they come across some animal, and they, the kids beat up the animal. So this is where we get into it.
男の子と女の子の双子か迷子かな魔物危ない戻って二人とも強っ何この5歳児
大変申し訳ございません僕誤って匠さんのこと殺しちゃいまして
どうやら28歳にして僕の人生は終わってしまったらしいおはよう二人とも大丈夫だからおいで最初は警戒してたけど随分笑ってくれるようになったな
お兄ちゃん絵本読んで
ああいいよ頑張ったから褒めてくれたの
ねえお兄ち
よしじゃあ今日は冒険者ギルドに行ってみようか
ゃんわかった
So the funny thing is, like, I mean, imagine like a dude like walks into a city with two young kids, and so there's a guy there, at the gate because they're not going to let anybody into the friggin', into the city. He goes, okay, you need to put your hand over here, and then we'll figure out, then you can go in or not. And then he puts in and gets, oh, what now? He goes, oh, you're fine now. He goes, well, what do you mean? Yeah, well, we know everything about you. You are not evil. You're not bad. We know you're okay. And so, you're good. And so it's like, it's this whole thing, this wholesome story, and it's got the adventure, it's got the morals, it's got the caring, male character, it's got the caring female characters, there's no sort of like, whatever. And it's gonna, I'm three episodes. I watched one and I was like, I'm hooked. And then like two, I'm like, okay, yeah, because it was 2 weeks had already been, so both episodes were. And now waited another week, and last night I saw the third episode, and I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. And I think this is why people go to anime and manga, because everything that I enjoyed as a kid in comics is gone out of it. There is no more fun in there. There's no more, just a great adventure and people being caring, being loving to each other. Okay, you're going to fight the monster. Yeah, they're the monster, but to each other, we're human to human. We're caring. Like the whole idea that a baby arrives on Earth and crashes and thing, and then the two elderly people take their baby, and isn't this the whole same story, right? That he's there arriving in this other place, or kind of reverse of that Superman story. He is the stranger there, and then he now has to look after the babies, not just one but two, right? And so why wouldn't that whole story work again, right? And so that's why I think that this is why everybody's enjoying what's happening and coming out of Japan. And the other side of this is kind of like the thing for them as a way to up their population as well, because they're not actually saying that males are bad. They're saying that males can become good fathers. Then it will be good, because their population is going down. They're not having enough births in Japan right now. And so you're going to see a lot more of this sort of thing, a return to the basics, and doing it through their art form, which is manga and anime. Whereas, like you can see in the West, comic books are being used to politicize things, to divide people, whereas they're trying to bring people together, relationships together. Man can be good fathers. They can be caring. They can be homemakers as well. And so where else are you going? Like, in the American media that we consume all around the world, in the West, males are all bad. They're terrible fathers. they're like that. And so you can see the reverse. And why would people want to escape into this story and not escape into the comic book story? Because it's two different friggin' worlds, right? The Western mainstream comics are the same as Japanese or even maybe Korean manhwa, right? And so because they're two different stories, one's a negative foretelling of stuff about people, and then another's positive. That's why you see a lot of people turning away from comics, because not only is the medium itself becoming very negative, but even the people who are writing them are very negative, which is kind of sad. Because like I'm part of that industry, right? I'm creating comics all the time, and I'm writing a story called Fantastical Romy now, which is a case story, which is like another world, right? Where this young girl finds herself in that world, and now she's a stranger to that world. Now someone has to look after her in that world, and and so we've got like a character called Dramzels in that world, and then we've got other people that from our world go into that world over the years, over the centuries as well. And so how do they live in that world? Because not everybody has the same outlook on life or whatever. And so I'm trying to be, even though that there's some storytellers, some of them are quite aggressive, I'm still trying to tell a caring, well-rounded story that's adventurous. And so hopefully you guys will pop over to Plunge Comics, which is on, is it the one? There you go. Follow that channel. I'm going to be on there in about 40 minutes, and we're going to be talking about The Tortoise, which is about two female couples. Well, a female couple, two people together, right? So in their 20s, and they go on an adventure because one of the ones wants to find out about this myth she's heard about, and so she wants to go figure out, and she takes her girlfriend, fiance along with her. So that's coming up soon in about 40 minutes on Punch Comics. That's the only, that's the place where we concentrate just about what we're doing with our comic books from New Zealand. Ka kite anō. See you guys next time. Be well.